Hi. All right. No good deed goes unpunished. This isn't always true, but for me, it's true enough that I probably should have learned my lesson by now, but I don't. I'm a helper. I like to make things easier for people. I like to make them happy. This in turn makes me happy. But at 23, doing something nice for somebody blew up in my face so hard that I can still kind of get myself worked into a rage about it. So after college, I moved to Portland to go to grad school. I was completely alone. I didn't know anybody in the city. It was kind of brutal. And I've got this clear memory of one of my first Saturday nights in my new apartment, and I'm sitting on the back of my couch, drinking beer, smoking cigarettes out of the open window, watching football, all alone. And during the commercial breaks, I'd look down at the people below, going out with their friends, having fun, carrying on, and I'd say to myself, like, ooh, Leah, you have no friends. You don't know anybody, you're all alone. And it was pretty sad. And then I would just drink more beer to ease my pain. Eventually, though, I moved from my couch to the bars, and I made friends. And when school started, I made some more friends. But it took a long time, and it took its toll on me. And for a while there, I felt like a real loser, and I kind of wondered if maybe I had not made the best decision moving across the country all by myself. It was a bummer. So when I heard a guy from home was moving to Portland, I kind of felt like it was my duty to be his buddy and invite him into our little friend group to make sure that he really didn't ever feel as alone as I had felt those first few weeks. Denny Fish, is about 8 years older than me, so I didn't really know him growing up, but I knew of him. I heard lots of stories. I knew that he was wild and drank a lot and was really entertaining, but relatively harmless. So, sorry.
Hey!
What's happening back there? Relatively harmless. So when he reached out to me, I agreed to meet him for a drink, even though we were basically strangers. And this went well because Denny Fish is really, really funny. And for me, somebody being funny, that can like really make up for a lot of other negative personality traits. Like I can almost forgive anything as long as you're funny. I like to keep funny people around me at all times, so it kind of seemed like a win that Denny Fish was around and so funny. He told me how I wound up in Portland. We gossiped about what was going on back in Arkansas, and it went relatively well. The only red flag that I could see was that he told me about this crazy dating ad that he'd taken out like on himself, put on Craigslist, and like without an ounce of shame, he tells me that in this dating ad he has described like full detail all of his tattoos and how he's really going to need a lady to really appreciate his sleeves and just really be enthusiastic about the whole thing. And he briefly mentions his son, who the mother, the baby mama, refused to let him see. According to him, she's a real bitch. And it seemed like maybe he was leaving some details out of this story, but it didn't really seem that interesting, so I didn't want to pry. Anyway, he conveniently left out of this dating ad that he was approximately 5'4" tall and like a full-blown conspiracy theorist. Like, don't get him started on chemtrails. He will talk to you forever. But I ignore these red flags because this is a problem for women who find dates on Craigslist, and that's not really my scene. So Denny and I began hanging out with my friends, a couple times a month at the bar, and he wins our hearts by performing this amazing bar trick, and it goes like this. All right. He lights a match, and then he jabs the non-flaming end of the match into his forehead, where it stays lit for the duration of the trick. Okay? So he's got a flaming match stuck into his head. So then he snorts a line of salt, takes a shot of tequila, squirts the lime juice in his eye. Yeah, listen, this happened. I know that you don't believe me, but there are several people here, and I'll tell you their names later. They've seen it. I've seen it. Anyway, this all has to happen before the match burns down far enough to singe his eyebrows off. So he's got to get it done pretty quick, and he succeeds. And we could not have been more impressed. And we request this trick like on the reg. Basically, every time we hang out with him, we ask him to do it, and he most of the time does. He's ready. So he integrated into our little friend group pretty easily. He hit on the females occasionally, always unsuccessfully, slept on the couch some, got drunk and made us laugh. He was like a hilarious little monkey who did tricks on demand and took his shirt off all the time. Exactly like Mr. Peepers. Things were going great. And a few months later, he told me that his little brother was going to come into town for a trip. His little brother's name is Daryl Fish. And Daryl took himself way too seriously. He had none of Denny's sense of humor, but he was significantly more attractive than Denny, and he'd been coasting on his good looks for basically his entire life. So we don't get to use pictures of real people anymore, but I found Dad Bod Ken doll and regular Ken doll, and it kind of felt fitting. So Denny, very handsome, clearly considered himself some sort of Lothario, but really that just translated to him sleeping with, like, anyone. And the stories about him from home were far less flattering than those about Denny. And there isn't, like, a nice way to put this, but Daryl was, like, stupid. Like, by anybody's standards, just dumb. So, to summarize, he's not smart, he's not funny, he's just really, really slutty. So I'd gone to the Oregon coast a few times since I'd lived there, so stupidly I offered to play tour guide for the Fish brothers and take him to the beach, and it ranks as one of the worst decisions that I've ever made. We decided to take my car because Denny had gotten a job with some sort of outdoor clothing company, and they had, for some reason, provided him with this enormous jacked up truck, and it burned gas like a motherfucker, so my car just made the most sense. And looking back, this was kind of the only stroke of good luck that I had. If they had provided him with a normal car, I may still be stuck there with the Fish brothers. So the only great thing that happened. And side note, the first time Denny ever came to my apartment building, he rammed the top of his jacked up truck into the entryway to the parking garage. He fucked it up so bad. And this is why tiny men shouldn't be allowed to drive giant trucks, but they need a stepladder to enter. Anyway, little brother Daryl comes to town, we head to the beach, and the Fish brothers have this weird vibe about him. Denny's older, but he's wildly jealous of Daryl. And, I mean, it's because Denny's real short, and Daryl's way more handsome, and Denny's got that weird disfigured forehead from stabbing matches into it over and over again. And to this day, Denny refuses to have anything resembling an adult job. He's currently a washboard player. That's been his occupation for a long time. And again, Daryl, he's 6 foot tall, highly attractive, and he chose to become a cop. And this was most likely to impress women, which for some reason I think still works for him, even though he gets fired from every job as a police officer that he gets. I mean, anything from slapping his girlfriend around, drunken hit and runs, beating the shit out of undeserving citizens, and gets caught because it's recorded on his dash cam. But again, not smart. But still, inexplicably, Denny looks up to his little brother Daryl in every sense of the word. So we drive to Cannon Beach, where we ate and drank, visited the Goonies house, where Denny does a really, really impressive truffle shuffle. Don't have that picture anymore. I did at one point. It's sad for me. And the plan is it was a Sunday, so the plan is to drive over there, go to the beach, hang out for a while, and drive home, because some people work Monday mornings, me. And so about 8 p.m., I was kind of pushing for wrapping things up at the bar that we were at and getting home. But we'd met some locals, and they were fun and funny, and we kind of decided that we were going to just drink with them all night and then get a hotel room and drive home early in the morning. And so that's when we start drinking for real. Denny always drinks whiskey and Diet Coke, because he's watching his figure. I'm sure everybody here knows this, but in the history of time, whiskey has never, ever, improved anybody's disposition. And Denny was certainly no exception. The introduction of alcohol into his already addled brain led him to believe that Daryl and I had fallen in love, and that we were definitely planning on boning that night. And so he starts yelling at us in the middle of the bar, screaming at Daryl about how he has stolen me from him. And that's hilarious, and so I laugh in his face. And, mad drunk people don't like it when you laugh at them at all. And so things kind of start taking a turn for the worse. They go downhill pretty quick. After laughing at him, I go get a drink because I don't want to talk to his face anymore. And when I come back, he is gone. He's gone to sit outside on the curb and have a little tantrum. And, I've got a soft spot in my heart for babies. I'm the youngest of 3 sisters. So I go outside and I sit down and I'm like, listen, Denny, here's the thing. I'm not going to bang one out with you or your brother tonight. And why we're on the topic, ever. It's never going to happen. And he refuses to accept this information and stands up and takes off, running down the street. And I look at him for a second, and I consider going after him so he doesn't run into the ocean and drown like an idiot. But I was having fun in that bar, and it kind of didn't seem worth it to me, so I just went back inside. And he's gone for about an hour, and when he comes back, he is pissed that nobody's really noticed that he's gone, and nobody really cared. I mean, we're just like, oh, where have you been? I forgot about you. And he's pissed specifically at Daryl for his brotherly negligence and just starts acting like an asshole. And so the night is kind of just officially not fun anymore. So I tell the Fish brothers that they're ruiners and that we're going to go find a hotel. Now here's the thing. Hotels aren't open 24 hours a day in tiny little towns unless they're sketchy. We drive around for an hour looking for a hotel while Daryl berates Denny, which is embarrassing for everyone. And we finally find a hotel. They've got 1 room with 1 queen-size bed. Fuck. Out of options, we take the room, and the moment we open the door, Denny yells at Daryl, well, I know you two are just gonna fuck all night till y'all can have the bed. By now, I'm just grossed out and not drunk and mad. I just want to go to sleep. So Denny lays down on the floor like an animal, and Daryl and I take the bed. We turn the lights off, and it's silent for just a second, and I think, oh, we're just going to go to sleep. Yes, this is not going to be a thing. And just when I'm thinking, ooh, really? Avoided a weird situation here, Denny, from the floor, starts drunkenly accusing me of giving Daryl a hand job. And he stands up, rips the blanket off the bed, and says, well, I'll just sleep outside so you two can be alone. And I say, fine by me, bye! And he goes outside. And fuck him for assuming that I would let his dirty, unfunny brother touch me with his disgusting fish fingers, much less give him a hand job. And, I mean, for Christ's sakes, his name is Daryl Fish. What is happening here? And also, if I did want to bang your brother, I can do that because I'm a grown-up. So, fuck off, Denny. So I'm laying in bed, stewing about how mad I am at fucking Denny. And Daryl kind of scoots over and creeps over to me, and he whispers in my ear, he says, you know what would make him really mad? If we did actually fuck tonight, what do you think? And I turn over, and I was like, Daryl, get the fuck away from me. If you touch me, I will kill you. But he doesn't really stop. He kind of continues this ridiculous campaign until he just passes out. And at that point, I'm just so mad at both of them that I don't get to sleep the whole night. I was still awake when stupid Denny comes back in from the cold, ends his protest, sleeps on the floor. And at the first light, I get out of bed and I say, car's leaving in 5 minutes, whether or not you two are in there. And unfortunately, they meet my time limit. So I didn't get to leave them there, which is what I really wanted to do. And thus begins the most awkward car ride of my entire life. No one said a single word, not one word. Not even when I dropped them off, they get out of the car, nothing. Just horrible, gross silence for damn near 2 hours. And the traffic was bad getting into the city, so I had to call work and make up some sort of lie about why I was going to be late. Naturally, I wasn't going to tell them that I had voluntarily taken the 2 biggest idiots I'd ever met for an overnight adventure at the beach where I almost had to murder them. I mean, I was lucky I wasn't calling from jail. And over the next few weeks, I successfully ignore every attempt of Denny's to get in touch with me. And I managed to avoid him until years later after we'd both moved away from Portland. And I was at a bar in Eureka, and I was waiting for the bathroom. I had my back up against the wall. And here comes Denny. And he's got me trapped, and he starts interrogating me, and he can't understand where it went wrong. And why I don't want anything to do with him, and why I started ignoring him, and it was like his tiny brain just couldn't comprehend how his and his brother's behavior was unacceptable. Unfortunately for him, I was at the bar with my dad, like I do. So we looked for quite a while for pictures of my dad, and they don't exist where he doesn't have a gun with him. So that's Gerald. So again, so I'm at the bar with this man. And even more unfortunate for Danny is that Dad, like at all times, is looking for someone to give him a reason to have a confrontation. And I flashed a look at my dad from across the room, and a second later, he's right there. So it's Wall, me, Denny, Dad. Like, And, Denny was just in the middle of this Tomlinson shit sandwich that nobody wants to be a part of, ever. And he's not a tall man, but he's about a head taller than Denny, and he looks over him and kind of calmly but gruff says, "We have a problem here?" And I kind of smile knowingly at Denny, and I ask him if he's had the pleasure of meeting my father. And he kind of turns around and looks at Dad and just like, whoop, slips on out of that whole situation. And that was about 6 or 7 years ago, and we have not spoken since. So the moral of this story is, don't do nice things for people. You could end up in a hotel room with the Fish brothers trying to bang you. And always, always take your dad to the bar. Pays to have backup.